Yeah, 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 yeah. Step into the bayou where the chatter gets wild. Truth served fresh with a wink and a smile. From gators to gumbo, it's a party. Let's sing. Welcome to the show. It's Bada Bing. We got flavors of the South with a 90s vibe. Stories roll deep and the beats arrive. Grab a seat, feel the heat, let the good times flow. It's the Bayou Jammin', ready, set, go. Bada Bing Bayou, the stories unfold. Where the swamp's alive and the truth is bold. Tune in, lean in, the vibe's so dope. Bayou beats in your ear, we the crew you'll quote.
Ciao a tutti.
Or as we say in Louisiana, hey y'all.
My name is Patrick Ross Campisi,
And I'm Lawrence Joseph Ingraffia.
and you are listening to.
The Bada Bing Bayou podcast.
Once again, we are back, Lawrence.
We're back, babe.
What did we think we're going to talk about today?
Today,
We got some big stuff cooked up.
we have some big stuff cooked up. I think really today, we're just going to talk about who we are, me and you, and how we got to this point, the journey thus far.
The journey that brought us here, the crossroads,
that's
if you
right.
will. That brought us, rather, the path to the crossroads.
Yes,
I think it's important, as we talked about. You have to know where you came from to know where you're going to go.
exactly.
And this is exactly how we got here.
You know what they say, Patrick?
What is that?
When you come to a fork in the road, take it.
I don't know who said that, but I love that.
I don't know who
That
said
is
it either.
wonderful.
I just heard it
There's
one
actually
time, and I ran with it.
There's a new thing that I've learned about recently called malphorisms. Are you familiar with these?
No.
Should
I be?
It's taking two idiomatic expressions that aren't related to each other and combining them. Like,
Ooh.
we'll burn that bridge when we get there,
Yeah.
or keep your head skid, or keep
I
your
love that.
yeah, or when life gives you lemons, lemon squeezy. Makes no sense whatsoever, but they're awesome. There's like thousands of them.
Squeeze the day.
Squeeze the day, exactly. All that stuff. Go look them up. Malphorisms. Quite fun.
Malphorism.
Quite,
Okay.
That's a little nerdy fun fact for you all.
Fun fact. We
Fun
love
fact.
the fun
We
facts.
do love a good fun fact.
We do. There's no shortage of fun facts here at Bada Bing.
But I think we could go in a rabbit hole with
Do you
this.
think people have figured out who's Bada and who's Bing yet?
I don't know.
Did we tell them?
We have not told them yet.
Maybe-
I think we're going to make them wait a little bit.
Yeah, they should wait a little
Yeah,
bit.
we're going to we might even have a merch line
Oh.
dedicated to that, Bada and Bing.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. So, how did we get here? I think that's an important thing for us to talk about.
How did we get here? Well, where do you want to start?
Well, we don't want to go too far back.
No.
Right? Because we only got so much time.
We do.
But I think it's a good part to say we're from Louisiana, right?
We are.
And that's a huge part of what we're doing here. That's the Bayou of Bada Bing.
That's it,
right?
babe.
But there's so much about being Sicilian, so much, even more so about being a Louisianian. Because I think we're both very, you could uproot us and throw us anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country. We're still going to be Louisianian. at
That's
heart.
right.
And there's something very unique to that, right? So, I mean, I guess I'll start off from a very small town in South Louisiana. We had one red light, less than 2,000 people. Very much like everybody knows everybody. Very much that small town America.
Yeah.
But a sizable portion of that town was Sicilian, similar to yours.
Yes. So I'm from Hammond, Louisiana.
Hammond, America.
If you go to the university that's there, they will say Hammond, America.
Hammond, America.
I say Hammond, Louisiana, because Hammond, America really wasn't a thing until, I don't know. Must have been like 18, graduated high school when that really caught on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm from Hammond, Louisiana. My whole family is pretty much from Hammond, Louisiana, as well as Independence, Louisiana. And, yeah, man, there's a college there, and there are a bunch of great spots all throughout Hammond. My family owns a handful. I say my family, extended family. They own a handful of businesses all across Hammond. So, it's like, oh, let's go to this place. Let's go to that place. Like, that's my cousin's place. That's that cousin's place.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's Hammond.
But the family was there. Family's a big part of your upbringing.
A tremendous part. Like, probably the focal point of my upbringing is family.
Not to go too into depth on that, but would you say that a lot of what you were brought up in, the traditions, the culture, that's still prevalent in your life today?
Dude, yes. Very much so. I mean, this weekend, for instance, my aunt and uncle are coming in town. I got 3 cousins coming in. We're all going to go have dinner at my parents' house on Saturday night.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So for me, there's definitely a lot of, I grew up in an extremely, very, very large family. There's
Right.
traditional Italian Catholic family.
Same.
We had a lot of cousins. I'm youngest of 5. I mean, there's a lot of family members there. Like similar to your situation. We walked down Plaquemine or in White Castle where I'm from, or even in Baton Rouge, I'm going to see a cousin. I'm going to see somebody. It's like, oh, you're a Campisi, you know this person, you know that person. Everybody, it's just Louisiana's a very small town,
Dude,
basically.
Anytime, I mean, in Hammond, people know who I am because I'm from there. But if I go to Independence or if I go to La Ronge, where my dad is from, people will be like, you look like an Ingraffia. I'm like, well, I am. They're like, oh, which one are you? Because
Which one are you?
My dad is one of 10. So they're like, which one are you? I'm like, my dad is Butch. They're like, yeah, you look like him. I'm like, well, is that a good or a bad thing? And they're like, hey, Dad's a handsome guy. I'm like, well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
You got to take it as a compliment. So for me, growing up in that Italian household, there was that the elements of Italianism, Sicilianism, if you will. But it's also, I grew up 30 minutes from a place called Pierre Part, which is not Cajun country, not Acadiana like Lafayette, Louisiana, but there's definitely a lot of Cajuns down in that area. So there's a blend in my family of like the cuisines and of the culture of both Italian, Sicilian, and the Cajun lifestyle. So for me, I mean, I always tell this story is like I went to school in Baton Rouge. It's a 45-minute, an hour drive from White Castle, and always just like assumed everybody else had the same upbringing as like Sicilian stuff. So like I'd bring Italian cookies, and everybody's like for lunch, because I brought my lunch for school. They're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's Italian cookies. Y'all don't have this? Y'all don't do this stuff?" And I had like little cheese and crackers and grapes and little cold cuts and stuff I'd be bringing. Dude. And people were like, "What the hell are you? What are you doing?"
I can very much relate to that because when I was in high school, my mother would pack our lunches, and my brother and I's lunches. He was a year behind me. Anyway, one of the things my mother would pack, she would like go to my grandparents' house over the weekend, and it's like she's basically grocery shopping because my grandfather, grocery shopping is his hobby for whatever reasons. He loves getting coupons, and he feels like he's pulling one over on the store. So he's like, look at all this I bought. Joke's on you. I got 3 stacks of paper towels for $5. And I'm like, yeah, you did, Papa. Great job, man. I'll tell you what, we did not do without during COVID. Toilet paper, paper towels, soap,
everything,
toothpaste. We were rolling.
You went to Ingraffia Costco, basically.
No, LaGuardia Costco. LaGuardia. My mom's side of the family.
LaGuardia's.
Yeah, man. No, but yeah, you're talking about like school lunches and everything. My mom would go to my grandpa's house, and he would make homemade muffaladas.
Oh, man.
With his own olive salad. And you've had the olive salad.
I have. The muffalata, if you're not familiar with that, is a classic, original New Orleans Sicilian sandwich. It's kind of like your heroes or hoagies, whatever y'all call it up north.
That's right.
Unique to Louisiana. It's got to be made on that muffalata bread.
You got to have the muffalata bread with the sesame seeds.
With the sesame seeds.
Very important.
You got mortadella, provolone. You got the olive salami as well. I mean, this thing is like that. It's stacked. It is huge.
Oh, it's a massive sandwich.
It could really be like 3 or 4 meals.
It could.
I knock out one in an entire sitting.
I've done that before. Yeah. I regret it after. But yeah, my whole point going down this, down this path with the muffalata is that you're talking about, your mom's, packing you cold cuts and everything, and with the grapes and the cheese and whatever. Well, my mom would like send me and my brother to school with half a muffalata, and people are like,
"That's the way to do it."
What is that?
Everybody wants it.
I'm like, this is a muffalata.
And they're trying to trade you with like a little PB&J, and you're like,
yeah. I'm like, no, dude, you can keep the Uncrustable. Yeah. I don't want no part of that.
Or the Lunchables.
Yeah, the Lunchables. I'm like, your little Lunchable pizza. Like, schifo.
But so like while I had this Sicilian upbringing, there was also again a lot of that Cajun Louisiana upbringing as well. So like when I got into high school, like I say, I like got out of touch with the Sicilian side. Like my grandfather still came over every Sunday, and we'd get together. He'd be drinking wine, we'd have coffee, and like just getting together as a family. Yeah. But I mean, I wore the boots and jeans, and went hunting, fishing every single weekend. Stuff that, again, like we talked about a while back, is not your traditional Northeastern Italian stereotype. Just your depiction of what Italian American is. Right. But it's a Louisiana reality.
Oh, very much so.
Very much.
I can relate to that because I may have said this in a previous episode, but my dad grew up on a farm.
Likewise.
Like my dad, they had a dairy and they had beef cattle, so they were ranching, man. Like my dad, my aunts, my uncles, they all competed in rodeos growing up. I actually have a cousin who was a professional bull rider at one point. This is the Ingraffia side, mind you. So my uncles on that side of the family like to joke because my mom is from Hammond, which they say is the city. It's really just a big town. But they're like, man, Lawrence, he's got the best of both worlds. Like you, your brother, your sister, I got the best of both worlds. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you one part country, one part rock and roll.
Oh my God.
That's what they say.
That's the way to do it.
But yeah, man, no, like very much like you know. I mean, some of my earliest memories as a kid, I'm running around like head to toe covered in red clay and mud, wearing overalls and red rubber boots.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
for us, I grew up in the middle of sugarcane fields. My dad, my family were sugarcane farmers for the longest time before my grandfather went to other businesses. But my dad was like 5, 6 years old. He remembered, he would tell the stories. It'd be like 4:30, probably more like 4:30. He'd hear my his dad's alarm go off.
oh God.
And at that, because no matter really what age you were, you're going to help the family because we all had to farm.
Oh,
so
dude.
he's like 4 or 5 years old. He'd pop up. My grandfather would walk down the hall, make sure all the kids were up. And when he'd hear my grandfather walk into the back of the house to his room to go get dressed for everything, and he put his head back down, just like trying to get ready for sleep, to try and catch some more sleep before, whether he was going to school or if he was going out working in the fields.
Oh, yeah.
And he was out there working in the sugarcane fields, either riding the tractors or helping any way he could as a young boy. And growing up, at 13, 14 years old, he was working.
Yeah, that's very much sounds like a perfect parallel to what my dad and my aunts and uncles were doing in the family farm in Laranger. Getting up at 4 or 5 years old, at 4 in the morning, you're going to work on the dairy, you're going check out the beef, cattle, whatever, because that's how they got their meat.
Yep.
They didn't get their meat from the grocery store.
No.
They grew it
Yeah.
in the backyard, which was 385 acre plot of land, right?
Farm.
Yeah, a farm. But yeah, man. So, and they would go to school, and then they would come back, and they would milk in the evening.
Yep.
That's
exactly.
what they did.
Handling the chickens and the cows
Handling
in the morning.
chickens, yeah.
All that stuff.
All that. The pigs, whatever it was. Yeah, that's how they got their pork, that's how they got their beef.
Exactly.
And, they had horses too. And sometimes, if they didn't all have vehicles, that's just not, you can't, back in the day with 10 kids,
Yeah, you can't.
That's a big financial, stress on the family, right?
Yeah.
If you got to buy 10 vehicles for 10 kids. So if one of my uncles or aunts was in the vehicle or took the vehicle or the car or whatever it was, like wherever they had to go, there are sometimes where my dad and my uncles would like saddle up their horses and ride to school on horseback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A different world.
Very different world.
Very different world. But so for me, going throughout high school, had a more leaning into that country side of things. Got into college, was in undergrad at LSU. Go Tigers again, if you all know.
Go Tigers.
And during that time, it's kind of when I started learning more about that Sicilian side of stuff. Again, leading like how do we get here? There was a long, windy path that got me there. Undergrad, I was on the kinesiology, was working out all the time, still going hunting and fishing every single weekend, every chance I could, especially during hunting season.
The good life.
I reminisce on that because we're so busy nowadays. But like when I can get away and go out to the hunting lease and go duck hunting or teal hunting or whatever it is, there's nothing like that.
No.
So after that, I even like played some music around town in Baton Rouge. We kind of ran around the same little circuit of bars and
But
Tigerland.
never ran into one another.
We did not, unfortunately. Whether for better or worse, we never did.
Probably for better. We
Probably
didn't
for
run into
better
each
at
other
that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
Man, that would have been something.
College Lawrence was a different beast.
That likewise for College Pat, a different world altogether.
Vastly different.
But it wasn't really until like during COVID, I had time on my hands to learn more about genealogy. And after like just seeing all the stuff going on, like Columbus Day and all of that stuff, tearing down the statues, I was like, all right, that something's got to give at some point. In Baton Rouge, there really wasn't much promotion of any type of organizations. I mean, they had the Festa d'Italia and some other things, but there was nothing on Facebook. There's nothing that I found easily available. So that's when I was like, all right, I need to start learning more about this. So that's when I actually started listening to the Italian American podcast, John Viola, Pat O'Boyle, and they had Charles Marsala and Lena Prima. They were being interviewed because they, during COVID, were doing their own little podcast video series down in New Orleans. So I listened to that episode, and I was like, oh my gosh, these people are from Louisiana. So I reached out to Charles on Facebook, and he was like, look, this is February of 2021. So he's like, look, next month we're doing it was a St. Joseph's Jazz at Homus House. Awesome restaurant, beautiful grounds. They were down in the area. Definitely go check out Kevin Kelly's Homus House over there. So I go meet Charles for the first time, and he had just started the San Expedite Lodge, which SIA, Southern Italian Americans, is a part of.
Right.
And he was like, I created this for young Italian Americans to have a position in leadership in Italian America. So you put me in as vice president on the spot that day, because we had talked a little bit before then. He's like, I'm gonna throw you into this, and I mean, from then hit the ground running.
That's what I'm saying. You get thrown in the deep end. It's like, well, you're either sinking or swimming.
Exactly.
And you swam, baby.
Like the thing wasn't established as it was established with ISDA nationally, but wasn't a nonprofit. We didn't have the 501c3 status. Had to learn how to do all that paperwork and figure all that stuff out. Build a board. People's lives change. They fall off the board. They still help build it up to where it went to that point. We built the website up, and like 4 years later, here we are, and we've got an awesome team that we're working with. But it was nobody sees what happened the 4 years prior. They see what happened today.
No, yeah, no. I mean, and that's a big part of really with starting any organization is the hardest part is getting started.
Yeah.
You know, once you're up and running and the foundation is established and you have, more consistency in the membership and in your routines and the events that you do, that's where you really start ascending.
Yeah.
But yeah, no one sees the grunt work. They don't see all the things that are going on behind the scenes, what you're doing down in the trenches to actually make the thing happen. And Patrick, were it not for you getting that thing started, I would not be here right now.
But even I appreciate that, but it wasn't. If it weren't for me starting it, yes, there would be no like Sia to be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But a step further than that, if it weren't for everybody else who's a part of it, it wouldn't be
doubt.
what it is today.
Right.
All right. So like looking back, I remember that first year when I was first working with Charles.
Yeah.
I went to St. Joseph's Jazz in March. Then I went to the Sicilian Festival. It felt like every single weekend I was on the road doing something, either with Charles or like representing St. Expedite before Sia was around, representing St. Expedite myself. And it was like every single week. And it was a grind. I was exhausted.
Oh, dude.
Going to parade, to festival, to event, that like just trying to get my name out there, trying to get the lodge's name out there more importantly. And it was that August I went up to Cleveland, Ohio, ISD at their national biannual convention up there.
Right.
And I met John, I met Pat, I met quite a lot of people out there, nationally speaking. Made a bunch of lifelong friends through ISDA, but took some of those ideas, brought it back to Louisiana. Then I started working with Charles in the Federation, and really through like his mentorship. And I think that's one of like the big things to highlight is having a mentor who has done this. Like, yes, the young Italian leaders need to have that drive to do it themselves, but you got to also realize you don't know what the hell you're doing, and you need to have somebody who's had the experience. And I lucked out with Charles, who took me under his wing and really like he put me in the places I needed to be to meet the people I needed to meet, but also was teaching me like, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, this is in an organization how you set this thing up, you need these people in these places. And there's a few other mentors that Charles introduced me to that really helped in like solidifying the foundation of this organization.
Yeah.
But it was really like having those people who would push me where I needed to go and then say, all right, from here, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
And we're at that point now where we've reached like critical mass, and that momentum that we've got is extreme.
We got to keep the momentum going. But yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. I mean, one of the big jokes in Italian America is, imagine what we could accomplish if we all worked together.
Yeah.
Right? We would rule the world. Well, like you're saying, that's a great example of synergy in Italian America. You and Charles link up, and then he's got you going to all these different things. You're getting all these ideas. You're getting this feedback. You're bringing it back to Louisiana, and you just keep building on the thing that you've already got going. And here we are now.
Yeah. And like in those early years, I was trying anything because there was no template for a young Italian organization, especially in South Louisiana, but even nationally, there was nothing like as big as they are now, as much as they're growing. So I was like, we'll do private dinners. So we went to these different Italian restaurants. I would host little like networking things at different local bars and sort of like, building a connection, a network of people and places to go to.
Yes.
But some were more successful than others, and you really just have to learn trial and error. And then finally, as I got the team developed as kind of up to the point of where we are now, we did the Serrata last year. And again, kind of alluding back to the previous episode, we talked about how we met. That was a great starting point. I was a bit overzealous. I had bigger ambitions, bigger goals and dreams for the Serrata.
Overzealous?
A little bit.
Big dreams? Ambitions?
A little bit with that.
You don't say.
No, not at all.
That's fine.
That one I was, I was like, we're going to have 100 people. first Serata.
It was a great event.
It was a great event. We did not have 100 people.
No.
It wasn't a flop, but we definitely learned a lot from it, and that's why the Serata this year, I think we're really in a good position for it. But again, that Serata, like having these other people that I could not have done that by myself.
No.
They put on an awesome event last year, and that's the event you came to. And
That's
now we've
right.
even built this group up,
Yes.
even more so having you on the board with us and all these great people that we're working with. We got a lot of momentum. But as far as like how we got here, that's my story. But what about you?
Well, my story, like I said, born and raised in Hammond, Louisiana, big Sicilian family. And, I know you said, really it was in 2020 for you where you kind of, got in tune with your roots, right? For me, I was always in tune with my roots. And I think a big part of that has to do with the fact that when I was growing up, I mean, I still had a lot of like the older generation around. Like my great grandmother, Lena, was still around. She and my great aunt Virginia and my grandmother, this is my mom's side of the family now, they were all very involved in Holy Ghost Parish, my home parish, back in Tangipahoa Parish in Hammond with the St. Joseph's altar. And so, I mean, from the time, as far back as I could remember, every Sunday, that we have the altar, my family from New Orleans, from California, from Georgia, they are all coming to town. And I'm running around in the church parking lot. They're, the old ladies are in the church or whatever doing the altar and what have you. So, I mean, I've always been aware of it. Mm-hmm. And, I remember, asking, why do we do these things? It's like, well, St. Joseph, we're Sicilian. This is why this is important. This is why we do it. And so I've always been aware of that. And in second grade at Holy Ghost, actually, we did it was like a project we had to do. And it was like, you got to do something about your heritage. And you got to like bring something, like they recommended we bring food. Mm-hmm. Like, and talk about where you're from or whatever.
That's difficult if you're Sicilian.
Yeah, I know. Like, where do you start?
Yeah, really.
We have so much good food. So really, when I was in second grade, that was kind of like the first time I figured out that there were people outside of the world that are not Italians or Sicilians.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? There are other people, like there are French and Germans and Spanish. Like it was kind of, I don't want to say like I was sheltered in my upbringing, but when you grow up in a big Italian, Sicilian dominated family, that's what you know.
Yeah.
That's what I knew up to that point. And I brought stuffed little mini portobello mushrooms.
Oof.
With melted mozzarella and provolone and pancetta. Mm. And, I was like the coolest guy.
I was about to say, you got to be like the
dude,
king of second grade.
I was the king of second grade, if only for a day, because everybody wanted to eat those stuffed mushrooms. Mm-hmm. They were so freaking good.
I can imagine.
But, yeah, man, I mean, it's just something I've always been aware of.
What pushed you to want to be like a quote unquote leader in Italian America and in these organizations? Because that's a big ask of the organization of one person. It's a big commitment. What pushed you to want to do that?
I think the biggest thing for me is, number one, I care deeply about the culture. A big part of that has to do with my family. Without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. I stand on the shoulders of giants. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's important, like you said, you got to know where you've been to know where you're going. So taking all of those things that I have experienced throughout my life from early on up until now, I think that is very valuable. I think it's important because, I mean, we talk about it all the time. If we're not going to be the ones to carry on this torch from one generation to the next, then who is going to do it? And so, I want to preserve the culture, and I want to bring it and flesh it out into the 21st century.
One of the things that Lawrence and I have talked ad nauseum on multiple phone calls or over Negroni is how to...
Multiple Negronis.
Starts off with one.
Yeah.
It always starts with one.
Just one.
Just one. That's all we say, just one. But we've had this conversation ad nauseum is how, and maybe there's people in other localities, other states who are dealing with this, but specifically here in Louisiana, because it's such a stark contrast between, like, again, the Sicilian, the Italian, that la bella figura, like everybody dressing well, et cetera, et cetera. And then Louisiana, like the good old boys wearing your boots and jeans and going hunting and fishing. And there's like a dichotomy between the two of like, how can you be both, right?
Well, I think if you're tuning in right now, you're looking at the examples of how you can be both. I mean, to my left, there's a wall full of taxidermy.
Yeah.
You know, look what's on the wall behind us, right?
Italian flag,
That's
posters.
The posters, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be both. It's not one or the other. You can be both. I am both of those things. You are both of those things. There's nothing wrong with being both of
course.
those things. Absolutely not.
You're not less of one or the other by doing that.
No,
But
you're
it
not.
seems like the common thread in that is having that connection with the older generations. Like,
Yes.
but for me, it was just my grandfather. But you had your great grandmother who was
did.
there. For those who don't necessarily
I actually
have,
grew up with two great grandmothers,
that's amazing.
both Siciliana.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people maybe don't have that connection. So how do you think somebody who maybe doesn't have that connection, but like is looking, whether it be for their identity and being Italian, or looking for an organization, community, how can they tap into that? Because it can be like, for just to give a little background. Again, I didn't speak the language. I didn't
Yeah.
grow up speaking the language. I didn't know all the traditions of like
Right.
those in the Northeast, the Italian traditions, but I knew what my family did, our traditions, what was real to us. So going up to Cleveland, going up to New York, to New Jersey, all these different places where it's like strong Italian strongholds, I felt a little bit like, am I qualified to be here?
Yeah.
So, like, of course, in my mentality, I prepped for it. Like, I researched it. I started learning all the songs, learned the Italian national anthem, started taking the language, or taking classes for the language, so I could get to that point. But you don't necessarily have to do that in order to be considered an Italian or an Italian American.
No.
Per se.
No, you don't.
So
I don't know the Italian national anthem, and then
we're gonna work on that.
Well, we are, but I mean, like whenever I'm hanging out with my dad's side of the family, for instance, we're like, "Oh, it's Mr. Italian America," and I'm like, "You're damn right.
That's right.
Come on.
Exactly.
Like, what are you waiting on?"
I think in a lot of families there has to be that one.
I was just about to say that, Patrick.
Yeah.
You just said it. If there are people that are in a situation where they're like, how can I get more involved in this? How can I learn more about this? Like, what are the things going on in the culture that maybe my family did or they don't do anymore? You're exactly right. There is at least, if you're fortunate, if there's one
Yeah.
person out there who is going to be your resource, who's going to be that fount of knowledge, where all you have to do is sit down and just ask questions, listen, get a pen and paper, write it down.
Mm-hmm.
You won't regret it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of your history. It's part of your family.
Exactly. I mean, especially on like documentation, and we're going to dive in on like at least our families, and maybe we'll have some stories of other people's families that our friends and our members of the organizations. But I've recorded my dad multiple times. 2.5 hour voice memos on my phone, just like tell me the story of my grandfather Ross.
Yeah.
What is his life story? What is the family story? How we got here and his experiences? Because again, he very much a Sicilian man. Has a lot of those traits, a lot of those traditions, but also has a lot of. He's still a Cajun, good old boy from the South. We're gonna go hunt and fish on the weekends. Built a friggin' houseboat, right?
Yeah.
Knows how to weld, knows how to do anything like manual labor like that because he had to. But that doesn't make him any less Sicilian.
No.
And my experience and my family was like, yes, we had it, but within the household. But outside, we were just like another Merigani.
Yeah.
But because I'm very passionate about this for my own self, really to preserve the legacy of my grandfather moving forward. This is something that now that I've been working to this degree, my family is a lot more engaged now, a lot more involved, wanting to learn more, actually like asking questions. What organization are you part of again? What are you doing this weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing something for that. And now they're remembering this stuff. But I had to go out there and take that risk to do that. And I think the same thing for anybody out there who's like, there's nothing in Mississippi. There's nothing in another part of Louisiana or any part of the country.
Right.
Just like go and do it.
Yeah, no, go and do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you won't regret doing it. And we all have fun doing it. So, I mean, if that's any indication for you, you should get involved. It's a lot of fun. We would love to have you. I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
And I mean, after the weekend in New Orleans with San Giuseppe and then the Irish Italian Parade, my brother calls me and he's like, "What's up, dude?" I'm like, "Pat, what's up, man?" funny enough, okay, so there are two Patricks, in case you didn't know this. One is my brother, Patrick. This is also Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my brother's the OG Pat because he's older, but he's still a pretty good Pat, right?
Yeah.
So he calls me and he's like, dude, I'm like, what's up? He's like, you look like you had so much freaking fun this weekend. I was like, I did. And he was like, I can't wait to finish residency. I was like, oh, yeah? He's like, well, number one, I want to make money. I'm tired of this. He's like, number two, he's like, I can do all these like different things. Like, I was like, I'm marching in those parades next year. I was like, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you have to be the one to, like, again, take that initiative.
That's what I'm saying.
But as people start to see that this is not the old school, there's nothing wrong with that, but
No.
not that old school stuff that we grew up at 5 years old
Yes.
with. Like, we need some more modern stuff, some quote unquote sexy things to attend, especially as like
right.
young professionals. They're really the only way to do that, because like the old guard, they've done it for so long, they've got their system down, and they like it that way. And
Yep.
I think that's just human nature. We'll also be that when we're the old guard.
Yep.
Right. But you have to be kind of thinking outside the box.
You got to be forward thinking.
You got to be very forward thinking and creating new events, still based on tradition and culture, but are moving it forward. And I think this now is like the perfect time to be doing that. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we got a lot cooking here in Louisiana. Stay tuned. Amici, this has been the Bada Bing Bayou podcast.